Amidst the sea of fame and the storm of chaos, Jamie and Amelia heard their heartbeats again. The sound of camera flashes followed Jamie until the elevator doors closed. He leaned his head against the cold metal wall, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. Hundreds of social media notifications flashed on his phone screen, compliments, criticisms, and judgmental comments about the premiere of his new film. Jamie Ross, genius or fake? A trending headline. To others, fame might have been a dream. But to Jamie, it began to feel like a room with no exit. 3 years ago, he was just an unknown young actor in a small theater company. Then an independent film suddenly shot him to the top. The fame came so quickly that he was unprepared. The constant interviews, the offers, the rumors, the stares. People were talking about him everywhere. About his hair, his smile, the way he kept quiet. When the stage lights went out, Jamie was left with nothing but emptiness. He lived in a high-end apartment in the heart of the city, where everything was comfortable and luxurious, but there was no human breath. The room was always neat and sterile, as if he was afraid that the slightest mess would make him lose the image the world had placed on him. That night, when the phone rang, Jamie almost didn't answer. On the other end of the line was Henry, his director, with whom Jamie had just had a heated argument. "You should take a break," Henry said. "Fame doesn't go anywhere, but if you keep going like this, it will swallow you." Jamie smiled faintly. "Where to take a break? I have nowhere else to go." Henry was silent for a moment, then said softly, "There's a small house in the seaside suburb of Southbury. I know someone who needs someone to look after the house for a few months. If you want, I can introduce you." 3 days later, Jamie packed a few clothes, a camera, and left the city. 2. The sea breeze and a stranger in the small house. The white wooden house was located on the beach, more than 200 kilometers from the city. On the first morning, Jamie woke up to the sound of gentle waves and the smell of toast filling the kitchen. The woman was standing with her back to him, her hair tied back, wearing a loose shirt and light-colored pants. She turned around, smiling a little shyly. "Good morning," she said. "You must be Jamie, right? I'm Amelia, the person who was asked to take care of this house before you arrived." Her voice was soft, warm, and devoid of any of the noisy world outside. They quickly became acquainted. Amelia was a freelance artist, making a living by painting and teaching art classes to children in a small town nearby. This house was where she rented to create her works. When she learned that someone would be staying there, she didn't hesitate to share the space. At first, Jamie was a bit confused. He wasn't used to living with anyone, and even less used to the peace and quiet of this place. But Amelia had a way of making things easy. She didn't ask about the past, didn't discuss fame, and didn't show any curiosity about him. She just said, "Here, everyone is the same. We just need to live, have breakfast, and let the wind blow through our hair." At night, when Amelia sat painting by the window, Jamie would quietly watch her. Each stroke of her brush was like a breath. He didn't understand why, but just hearing the sound of the brush touching the canvas, he felt his heart calm down. Once, he asked, "Why did you choose to live here, far from the city, far from everything?" Amelia replied, "Because I tried to chase after those noises. And I realized, the noisiest thing is when people are silent in their hearts." That sentence kept Jamie awake all night. 3. Life together, small beats. The days passed slowly. They cooked together, cleaned together, walked on the beach together. Jamie started taking photos again, not for newspapers or for the media, but just to capture the moment. One morning, Amelia was painting a landscape. Jamie stood quietly behind. He asked, "Have you ever been afraid that your paintings would not be known by anyone?" Amelia smiled. "If only I knew, that would be enough." That answer was like a soft touch to Jamie's mind. All his life he had lived to be known, for the audience to remember his face, for his name to appear on billboards. But in Amelia's eyes, fame meant nothing. In the afternoon, they went to the town market. The people here did not recognize Jamie as a movie star. They just called him the boy in the White House by the beach. That evening, they sat on the porch, listening to the rain pounding on the tin roof. Amelia told stories of her childhood, and Jamie told stories of his days performing in small theaters where every clap was genuine. They both laughed, then fell silent, but it was the sweetest silence Jamie had ever known. 4. Chaos returns. One morning, while Jamie was making coffee, the phone rang. It was Henry. "Are you ready to come back? They're about to start shooting a new movie, and they want you to play the lead role." Jamie was silent. He looked at Amelia, who was watering the plants on the porch. The water droplets glistening in her hair reflected the sunlight like shards of crystal. "I don't know," he said. Henry sighed. "You can't hide forever. You were born to be on stage." When Jamie hung up, he felt two worlds clashing in his heart. On one side was the lights, the cheers, the recognition. On the other was the small house, Amelia, the peaceful afternoons without a name. That night, he told Amelia. She just nodded. "I think you should go," she said softly. "Not because you have to, but because you need to know what you really want." Jamie looked at her for a long time. "If I go, will you stay?" Amelia smiled. "I'm always here. In the wind, in the sea, and in the pictures you take." Point 5. Return to the city. Jamie returned to the city in the fall. Everything seemed the same, still noisy, still fancy cars, still glittering parties. But he himself was different. In each scene, he no longer acted to be admired. He acted as if he were talking to himself, as if he wanted to send something to someone sitting on a distant beach. The film was a huge success. Critics called it Jamie Ross's most mature role. But when he stood on stage to accept the award, he only thought of Amelia's eyes, eyes that didn't need fame to shine. After the ceremony, he quietly left, despite the reporters shouting his name. He drove all night towards the sea. 6. Winter at the White House. When Jamie returned, the shore was covered in cold fog. The White House was still standing, but the lights were gone. He knocked on the door. No one answered. In the living room, everything was still neat, except for an unfinished painting on the easel. It was a picture of a man walking through a storm, but in the distance was the light of a lighthouse. In the corner of the painting, Amelia had written a small line, "Don't let the light come only from outside." Jamie sat down, silent for a long time. He realized Amelia had left. Perhaps she had continued her journey, like the wind still blowing, like the waves still coming and going. He opened the door, letting the wind blow into the room, carrying with it the smell of salt and freedom. Then he took out his camera, pointed it out to sea, and took a picture. In the frame, there was a misty sky, there was a small house, and there was a peaceful beat that he had forgotten in the chaos.